outside the box, if you will. I mean, go there, go off campus. Let's think this through. And sure enough, that's where the Mustang was born. When it finally hit, it took the country by storm.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clor. You know, this is the Motor City, and this is the show where we put cars into the context of your everyday life. We got a really important show today, so let the dog out, grab a cup of coffee, pull up the chairs. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a very important topic because now it's time to clean up your car, and we're going to talk about the whole thing about car washes, but we're not going to get too detailed. We're just going to give you great information. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you the guy we brought in. This guy's got firsthand experiences with car washes. It's none other than Joe Babiasz.
John,
Joe, welcome
great
back to Cars in Context.
My pleasure.
I understand that you actually have hands-on knowledge.
I did. When I was about 18 or 19, I worked at GM during the evening, and I worked at the Instant Sparkle car wash during
folks.
the day.
Working
I
at
had,
the car
I had no
wash.
life. I had no life, clearly.
We're going to explain it all to you, but before we do that, Joe, we have to find out what's happening in the news. Yep. So we got some really good news for Detroiters, and it's about, you know, earlier on the show, a couple of shows ago, I told you about Ford moving production of the Focus from Mexico to Wayne, Michigan. They're doing it again. Ford now has announced that it's going to move more work away from Mexico and back to the United States of America, this one to Avon Lake, Ohio. The trucks that Ford makes have all been redesigned. They're smaller, they're more fuel efficient, and so that work, which is all done in Mexico, now is coming to this plant just outside of Cleveland, pretty close up from Lorain, and they're actually going to invest $168 million back into this plant in the good old US of A and bring some jobs back to America. So this is just another one of those, you know, when the UAW gave up sacrifices of their pay, all of us sacrificed to make sure that the car industry could survive, and now it's paying off with more jobs here in the US of A coming from Mexico.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But while that's really good news, John,
Uh-oh.
You remember something called NAFTA years ago?
Oh, man, I hate that.
It was
There's
going
a great
to
sucking sound of all our jobs flying away.
In the American economy, and quite frankly, it did.
That's right.
It did some of that.
We told you.
You look at Mexico. Mexico currently is the #3 importer of cars to the United States today.
Unbelievable.
But they're expecting this year, 2014, to surpass Japan, who is currently #2 in imports to the United States, and to import about 1.7 million cars into the United States.
Passing Japan.
And at some point possibly passing the #1 importer of cars,
which is
Canada, our northern friends Canada.
See?
Are #1, but we think that Mexico will surpass Canada. Let's hope that we can continue what you just mentioned a few minutes ago about bringing more jobs back into the United States.
Yeah.
Ford is spending a lot of money. I know GM is expanding too in some places, but Mexico is really really kicking butt, and they're really sending a lot of cars over the border to America right now. So let's hope we could change the tide a little bit.
The bottom line is, folks, we had this agreement. And, you know, we're working on a trade agreement with Japan that we haven't been able to pass. How many of you guys thought that Japan would get passed? They were flooding our market with so many cars for so many years, 40, 50 years, billions of dollars have been exported out. And I know you see the commercials on TV, I'm a Honda guy now, I'm a Honda gal now, or I love my Prius. If it is built in America, my car was built in Ohio or Texas, but where does the profit go? It flies overseas, it's exported. And for decades, we've exported billions of dollars, and they're not adding any jobs. Well, we had so many jobs at our plant, it took away from jobs. So the point is, you know, okay, so Japan's gonna get passed. Maybe if we can see that it makes sense to build cars here. You Canadians, I know we imported a lot of cars from Canada. I thought it was just hockey sticks.
No, I think there's a lot of cars.
That's pretty amazing.
A lot of cars.
But listen, let's talk about something else that's really a pet peeve of mine, and that's the names of cars. Remember we had this show, we talked about, you know, the XR4 TIs and then the LSMFPs and all you guys with your numbers are ridiculous, seriously. There are just so many, the nameplate's too big on your car, it's not a name. So what's happening now is we just saw, I had to bring this up, Honda has announced they're building a new race car. Now that's not unusual. A lot of manufacturers build race cars. They're building this car. It's called, are you ready for this? It's going to be sold by their performance division to racing teams. Here's the name. I have to read this to you. It's the HPD ARX-04, small case B, LMP2 coupe. What?
Interesting.
Did you get that?
I did.
I'll repeat it for you folks. The HPD ARX-04B LMP2 coupe. This takes the ridiculousness to a new level. Now, it's a race car, not on the streets, I understand, but this is what I was talking about. I couldn't even fill that out. If I wanted to order that race car, I would rather put Boss 302, you know,
Keep it
Viper,
simple.
but Viper. But why would I put that? Seriously, folks, they're losing it.
You know, and the domestic cars, generally speaking, they keep them simple. They have simple names.
Lincoln's gone to the MKC, MKX, MK.
But if you pull behind some of the older BMWs, and it's a BMW 3 something 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 IT supercharged,
GT,
half
LX,
the deck lid
MF,
has
come on.
letters and numbers on it.
It's ridiculous,
Right.
Joe.
Now Cadillac, in their defense, you know, they have the ATS, they have the CTS, the X, you know, the three letters.
It's
And we
still
have a new
letters.
guy called Huey Ellinghaus, who came from BMW, and I'm not sure if he was part of all of these letters.
So he's a marketing guy at BMW.
But he wants to simplify and keep the Cadillac brand and the names very simple.
Huey.
Good job, hopefully. We hope it's going to be continuation of maybe just the 3 letters, and everybody will be able to remember them, unlike that race car from
What's
Honda.
wrong with
So
El Dorado?
It's, you're right. Keep it simple.
I love when that happens.
I-
We've gotten people so upset that we've just knocked out the city of Detroit.
Oh my gosh.
But that doesn't matter, folks. We'll keep on. The show must go on. So, speaking of things that are funny, how about Walmart?
How about Walmart?
Ever go to that website, People of Walmart? I'm not asking you to leave the show and go to the website, People of Walmart. But Walmart, I've got new, well, just when you think Walmart couldn't possibly get any more involved in American commerce, they come out with a really cool thing, a truck. Yeah, so we're going to show you this truck. This truck is called, it's a new concept truck.
Beautiful.
It's
Look at
called,
that.
that truck is Walmart's concept
at
truck called the Wave. And that stands for the Walmart Advanced Vehicle Experience. It's 20% more aerodynamic than typical semis you see out there. And they've, of course, Walmart's got a gigantic fleet of trucks. And this thing has a carbon fiber trailer that's also about 4,000 pounds lighter than a standard commercial semi-tractor trailer.
And that's substantial for fuel
Oh
economy.
yeah, so think about that. The thousands of Walmart trucks driving all over the U.S., they come out with their own truck, and if they say, you know, we should build this, we can save on fuel economy. And by the way, the engine would run on this hybrid powertrain, could run on natural gas. So they could save money on fuel, they could save money on aero, save money on shipping their materials. That means the cost of transport goes down. And guess what, folks? They didn't need a government mandate to say you have to build a certain truck. They didn't need the administration telling them if you don't have this truck on the road, we'll ban all trucks. This is a company saying we will fund our own ideas and come up with our own ideas to save money.
We have a need, let's fill it, let's figure out how to make it better. And you know, with some luck, maybe it'll be built in America. You never know. If they go forward with this truck and we get a production plant in Detroit, perhaps, we
Yeah.
have plenty of empty space
We'll
here.
build it at Walmart.
We can build it here.
And your tax dollars won't be used. It'll be the
a good
good old entrepreneurial spirit of America. Well, I know you think that that's all we have for you just before our break, but that's not true, because now we have
We
a
have
new
more.
feature. A new feature.
We do.
It's called the Car Trivia Time. So it's Car Trivia Time.
Let's do it.
All right, so folks, this is where we're going to give you a little piece of trivia, so put on your thinking caps right now, and then you try to think about it, and we'll come back, we will give them the answer. I hate doing that, though. Never gave me the answer in school. I had to look it up
That's a good
myself. Okay, here's today's trivia question. Where was the first 3-color stoplight, a traffic light, installed? The first one in the United States of America that had used 3 colors, where was this installed in the United States? You know, we're going to give you the answer, so start thinking, to that question, and we're going to put Joe in the driver's seat and let him talk to us about car washes right after this message. Hi, and welcome back to Cars in Context. I'm your host, John Clor. Today we're talking with Joe Babiasz. Joe of AutomotiveTraveler.com and all the wonderful things you do. Joe, you're our resident auto expert. You're going to talk to us about the car wash and the industry and where it started and some great tips for people. But we have to give the answer to our trivia question, which, and the trivia isn't when did the Car is in Context logo fall off of our desk. That's not the question.
That's next
No,
show.
that was the next show. You can time it on YouTube when we post it up there. The question was, where was the first three-color traffic light, the first stoplight ever installed in the United States of America? So time's up. We're going to have to give them the answer. The answer is right here in Detroit. It was 1919. If you guys were watching Black History Month, you'll know that Detroit police officer William L. Potts invented the four-way, three-color stoplight based on the rail system, and he installed it on Woodward Avenue.
Right, actually, I think it might have been installed technically in Ferndale, right on 9 Mile and Woodward Avenue. And today there's a replica of the stand with a police officer up there right between the north and southbound lanes.
How cool is that we invented that? You know, it's all based off the railroad system. Remember the arms that used to come down, and they used that in London in the 1860s and 70s. And then this Detroit police officer said, you know what, we think we can do better. In fact, 2 years after he invented this, he decided, why am I sitting here pushing these buttons, red, yellow, green? They automated it, and then that's how we got the time traffic light, right here in the Motor City.
And look at all the tickets you've gotten for going through red lights. So only because of the lights there now. So.
Thanks a lot, Officer Potts. No, it was really good. But thanks for joining us on that one. But we have even more.
We do have more.
Yeah. Before we get to this, before we get to other fun stuff, we have to talk, folks, about car washes. Now, car washes have another piece of history, Joe. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Detroit, we made the car, we put the world on wheels, so we gave you all these cars, and what did you do? You went out, you drove around, and you got your car dirty. Now, those early cars, the Tin Lizzies, they must have been a mess. They were like SUVs. They're open carriages, mud went everywhere. It was just horrific.
And there weren't really good roads back then. Back in 1914, we used a lot of dirt roads, turned into mud roads, and cars did get really dirty.
Right, but Detroit has a history of inventing things to make our lives easier. We built you the car, and when we said, what a mess it is to clean it, what did we do? The first auto wash in the United States of America is credited with the city of Detroit. And I know this because, Joe, I worked on at the Detroit News for all those years, and right behind the Detroit News there on 4th Street, there was that first auto wash. So why don't you give us a little bit of a history about car washes, and before we get into talk about what people should be doing on modern day car washes.
Well, the car wash actually started in 1914. Now, they called it an automatic car wash, but it really wasn't automatic. There was a guy pushing the Model T through a little tunnel, through an area, and on each side were guys with brushes and water.
Well,
and they would wash the car as this guy or two guys were pushing the car towards the end. And I can only assume because it's a Model T and there's no side windows, when they were finished washing the car, they opened up the doors to let the water out of the car because there was no windows in the car. I don't know that to be true. So they did that, but by 1940 they invented a hook that would go onto the front bumper.
Kind of like the assembly line.
Assembly line, but there were still people washing the car, but at least the car went down the line at a fixed speed with the conveyor. And then later on, I know by 1951 in Seattle, there was a fully automatic car wash, which nobody worked at other than
the machine does it. We have the photo of Paul's there on 4th Street, Paul's Auto Wash, and you'll notice that when they put their sign up, automatic was on their sign because that's what started the car wash. And they kept, even when they went to a mechanized car wash, they kept that name all those years, even after the building went defunct. And if you're the guy that bought that sign at a swap meet and have it in your man cave, sell it to me. That's a piece of Detroit history. But as we all know, throughout the 50s and the 60s, the car wash became just a big deal. Great job for people just entering the job market, young teenagers, everybody's got a car wash story. In the 70s, there was that disco song.
Working at the car wash.
I was not going to sing it, Joe, but thank you for throwing that out there. But,
my pleasure.
Yeah, but you, Joe, you have a history of actually working.
I did. I worked at Instant Sparkle Car Wash in my teenage years. It was one of those full-service car washes, and it was back in New Jersey, and I remember in the middle of the winter when you're just freezing, you're wiping cars down, praying you're going to get a 25-cent tip, You know, it's one of those things you realize, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. But also back in the 60s, I do remember the car washes, the brushes they had years ago weren't like they do today, they have today.
Well, they used to wear out so fast, so
Right.
they tried to make better.
They made brushes last long, but in doing that, you know, if you sent your black car through the car wash 5 times,
And
you have
those-
these horizontal, you know, cuts
just-
in it like somebody put sandpaper on
Now,
your
folks,
car.
you must remember that. Maybe in previous years, you had cars that you got washed a lot, and then when you looked at them in the sun in the spring, you go, what is all that swirling on?
And I have one other real quick thing. Last week I had my car washed at a different car wash I had not been to before. And as I pulled in and I handed him my $4 or whatever it was, he said,
$4?
Oh, by the way, we're not responsible for your mirrors, emblems, antennas, and he goes on, and I'm thinking, by the time I get out of here, I might not have half my car, but he's already told me he's not responsible for
You're
anything.
responsible for anything?
So for $4, my car came out unscathed. and it
That's
was
pretty
fun.
amazing. It's pretty. Well, now we have great car washes on the east side, Mr. C's. You know, they're always looking
Yeah,
for help
Jack's.
wanted.
They
Those
do
are
really
hard.
quality
Those are
jobs.
hard jobs to do
They are.
still,
They're
even
tough.
with the automation, but our cars are pretty complex. They're all different sizes and shapes. They have to put things on the windshield wiper in the back because people say, "Oh, my car was damaged in the wash." You know, they run into the ATM thing and they break their mirror off, and they figure if they go in the car wash, they can have that guy pay for it. So they're a little nervous about,
Sure,
you know, because in
certainly.
my America, you're responsible for your own things. But the car wash industry now has gone touchless. What are they talking about?
The chemicals they use today are strong enough that without physically touching the car, they spray these chemicals on, and it's actually going to remove the grime.
So
now,
no
I'm not convinced it
brushes.
does as good a job.
Well,
I know it doesn't do quite as good a job, but if you have salt on your car,
I would
if
wipe
you know,
it?
if you want to, yeah, if you want to wash your car well, do it at home. You know, with a lot of water and a bucket and some good car wash soap, and then dry it
You're
down
not-
when you're done.
not-
Just do it at home. Save the $4. It was a Saturday ritual.
You
wash
guys at the
your
car wash, I'm apologizing for Joe because he's telling people to stay away from you, but
Sorry about that.
sometimes it's just hard in the wintertime.
It's hard in the winter, and you
can't-
want to keep the salt off it. I agree. In the winter, you certainly want to keep the salt off your car.
Yeah.
They have the undercarriage washes today, where you get all
That's
that
great.
salt off of there. That is really
Okay,
important.
well,
You don't want
do
to
the
rush
car
your
wash in
out.
the winter.
In the summer, it's kind of fun to get out
You know,
there on
I don't know
Saturday.
about you. You bought that little Expand-A-Hose thing. It was on TV.
I didn't buy that.
Okay.
I wouldn't buy that.
That's even frozen. You need a pickaxe to break it.
That's-
The winter
with
we
this
just
winter.
had,
With this winter,
after
yeah.
this ice cold, coldest winter since the Ice Age, even though we have global warming, that winter was so tough. You just need to drive your car through a car wash. But now what you're saying, in the spring, folks, okay, you go to the car wash, you go to Mr. C's, you pay the big bucks, they clean, they do a great job. But you're saying there's something to be learned about your car by hand washing it.
Well, if you-
You may find things, stone chips, damage, your fog light's broken, chips that you don't know about
A
unless
a loose emblem, a loose part somewhere, a little fascia, a clip came off, and you know what? It's good downtime. You know, it's good just downtime. You're washing your car. It's like great, the best thing in the world.
All right, so Joe, tell us, we don't go out there and go get the Lemon Pledge or the Joy or the Dawn dishwashing detergent. What do we use?
Well, you use an appropriate car wash soap that has the cleaning capabilities, but it's not a caustic soap, and it, won't damage the paint. Although I will say today's paint is really durable.
Yeah, I know,
Base Coat
but
Clear Coat.
we were saying go to like a car.
Go to an
car
auto store
parts
and
place.
buy good car
Buy
wash.
real car wash
Buy
soap.
a good sponge.
Right.
Use a lot of water. Water is your friend. You want to rinse it down really well
Yeah.
first. Soap it up, rinse it down really well after that. Dry it out. And even small thing on the bottom of each door is a weep hole. There are 2 weep holes
Yeah.
typically. They tend to clog up, and you
Get
don't want
underneath.
your door to rust. You put a little pressure from your hose in there. Make sure that's clean and running clean. So.
Folks, it makes sense. Get yourself a bucket, go to the auto parts store, get the right materials, spend an hour on a Saturday afternoon, a nice sunny day, rinse your car down first, you apply the soap, rinse it again, and then you wring out your sponge or your chamois, a lot of people use chamois, a nice terry cloth, clean cloth, and wipe it all down. You'll be surprised how much better that car will look. And Joe, there's 2 reasons why you want to do that. One, not to just to know about your car. It's the resale value goes up when you have a clean
Yeah,
car.
keep a car clean. It'll sell for more money.
It has less tendency to rust. There's all kinds of good things. Here's the other thing. I was told by a designer at one of the U.S. car makers that washing your car by hand can be a religious experience. You can learn to appreciate the design and your car better when you run your hands over it.
Yeah, especially if you have a '59 Cadillac with the big fins and those 4 taillights kind of
Oh,
poking
yeah,
you in the eye.
Okay, some of you folks have just clicked off the television set. You're missing it because that's when you really get to know your car. I think it's a good idea. Kids, just don't run it through that thing at the mart where you pull in and the wand goes over, throws a bunch of water at your car and you drive out. Then the air blower, you see the dirt still on your car.
And some of those air blowers are really strong today. I mean, you watch these things and your wipers are flapping in the breeze and you're waiting for your windshield to come out of your car. You need to be careful with that.
But there's a good thing about actually wiping the car down. And,
Something to be said for it.
Yeah, it really. So folks,
Cup of coffee.
the best advice you could get here on Cars and Context, Joe, that was fantastic stuff, and I'm certainly going to follow it. If we have too many cars in the family, though, you want to get the kids involved. This is a way for you guys to bond with the young people in your family, your children, get grandpa out, get them off the rocker, make it a family thing. Hey, we're going to wash the car today.
There we go.
Billy, you get the vacuum, you get to do the windows, I'll do the washing, so-and-so get the hose, and make it fun, and make it a family thing.
Yeah.
Get to know your car
Great
and
thing
get
to
to love
do.
it. Yep. But Joe, we even have more. I know you think that's just, we've got all this
How
history.
can we have more?
Because we've added a new feature to Cars
Amazing.
and Context. This new feature, it's called Pick of the Week.
Okay.
Yeah, and the pick of the week is a picture of the week that we like to show you because we, here at Cars and Context, think it's kind of interesting, and we think you're going to find it interesting. And oh, by the way, if you have a candidate for pick of the week, you can send it to me, jclor at carsandcontext.com, and I'll put it on the air. But this week, Joe, I've got something right up the alley. Talk about car washing. Talk about cars. The pick of the week this week is a 1949 Cadillac. But look at this thing, Joe.
Wow. Look at
What's wrong with that car? Does it look like? I'll tell you what's wrong. This owner went to see how much it would charge him to paint his car, and they wanted several $1,000s. So know what he did, Joe? He saved up $383, and he went out and converted it to 38,295 pennies. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That car is covered with pennies. This is a paint job that won't scratch. The owner affixed all these pennies one by one using silicone, and one by one attached them to his 1949 Cadillac. There are over 200 pounds of pennies stuck on this guy's Cadillac, including...
And that's really unique looking. I mean, that's a cool looking car.
No, instead of being in a car show...
And you never run out of change.
Wish you would have said that.
Sorry.
You go to a car show and you have a black Cadillac, a green Cadillac. Who's got that?
A penny Cadillac. No.
Yeah. Penny for your thoughts? Yeah. This guy says he's got, accidentally, an 1817 Big Cent on there, and 2 error pennies, plus a couple of 43, remember in 43, pennies came out in steel because there was a shortage of copper for the war effort. There are a couple of steel pennies, but you'd never be able to find it on that car. How cool is that?
That's great. Great idea.
What a pick of the week. Fantastic.
Awesome.
I think it's fantastic. But that's not all. I know you think, come on, the hits just keep on coming. Is this AM radio? No. By the way, we did fix our sign. Did you notice that, folks? We fixed
back.
our sign. It's back.
For now.
What else is back
Maybe
is
not in 10
another one of
seconds.
our favorite features, and that's called Pride in My Ride. Now, Pride in My Ride is where you, the viewer, send in a photo of your car, and you tell us here on Cars and Context why you have pride in your ride, and we'll put it on the air. This week, I've got a great one. This one came to us from Joe Warnez of Grosse Pointe Woods. Joe sent us photos of his 2000 Jaguar S-Type 3.0, and Joe wrote me this note. John, why do I have pride in my ride? Styling! I purchased this Jaguar 2 years ago from a friend whose 92-year-old father had owned it, and it had sat for 1 year in a garage with only 49,000 miles on it. Having never owned a Jaguar, I immediately fell in love with the smooth ride and styling. Now let's face it, Jaguars have a reputation of being just plain cool. I'm a fan forever as the compliments keep pouring in. Here's what they say to him, Joe. They say, ooh, you drive a Jag? And Joe says, how classy. Yes, that's right. This is my Jag. He said, thanks, John, for showing this on Cars and Context. Thank you, Joe, for showing us the picture of your 2000 Jag S-Type 3.0.
It's a nice car.
Yeah, it is. And we want you to send us a picture to Jay Clor at carsandcontext.com, and we'll put you on the air just like we did of Joe Warnez and Grosse Pointe Woods.
Great.
But you know what? Now comes the favorite part of the show for everybody.
What's that?
This is the time when viewers, you, send in mail, and we bring Lauren Parrott of WMTV
viewer
out to
mail,
give us
that's right,
viewer mail.
viewer
Lauren, is
mail.
it possible that this week we actually have viewer mail? And be careful of our sign, Lauren, because we don't,
Yeah, don't touch it.
we don't want anything to happen to it. We have viewer mail?
Thank you.
You do. You always have.
Well,
very
thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome.
you folks who are on YouTube and put in a Lauren alert that she comes out at a certain time, I mean, Lauren has her own show. That's, okay.
Yeah, I think
All
we're
right, so-
short-lived, I think, John.
That's right there.
This is our last
okay,
show.
so Joe, why
Bye,
don't you
folks.
read some viewer mail from one of our viewers here?
All right, this comes from Victor V. from Ypsilanti, who watches Cars and Context on AT&T Uverse, Channel 99.
Okay.
Dear Joe, I watched the show about the sinkhole under the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and recently saw the photo of the last Corvette being pulled from the sinkhole.
Joe, here's the photo.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
look at that.
This is not, folks, this is a real photo.
You know what, I think it just needs a car wash. They
That's
said
a
it was
photo.
being sent to GM in Detroit for restoration, except it looked like there was nothing left to restore. Why won't they admit that the last vet out will be impossible
Joe,
to
look.
rebuild?
Joe, look. All right, Joe. I see a shifter
Where
and a
would I
wheel.
start with
Seriously?
that?
Seriously? Vic,
There's not much to it.
Vic, you seeing that photo and sending it to us, that's a great question, Joe.
You know,
Seriously.
it's a great question, but this, I'm sure, John, this is a very rare Corvette. I don't know which one particularly this
The
one
last
is.
one out, yeah, I don't know.
But it's a rare car. It would not have been in the museum. It has value. Now, where do you start with something like this?
That picture,
I don't know.
that picture shows like there's nothing. Where's the body?
Yeah, you can't even identify what kind of car, what kind of Corvette it is.
Where?
Yeah, I
you
see.
got a chassis? I
You know, I think it'll be an interesting show is to watch the restoration of that car in Detroit. We can do a remote. Let's think about it.
Folks, would you be interested to see them trying to, how in the heck are they
can
going to fix
Watch
that?
the progress of
That
it.
Corvette is horrific. I had no idea when it fell in the sink. I thought it would just be smashed, that it would be
well, it's
destroyed.
smashed.
Well,
It's
yeah,
destroyed, yeah.
but
Takes a l-
Vic, that's a great
A lot
question.
of Bondo needed on that
No,
one.
Bondo, where do you
lot of
bond?
Bondo.
Where's the body on this car? I see one wheel.
Yeah,
I see a
One
part of a
wheel.
chassis. I don't know how you're going to restore it at all.
that looks
I think,
pretty bad.
all right, well, listen, I have one too. All right, this one comes to us from Mike L. of Grosse Pointe Woods, who watches Cars and Context on Comcast, channel 915. That means, Joe, you're in HD.
Wow,
Whoa.
1080.
Woo! Yeah.
They'll see our wrinkles.
Okay, here it is. Dear John, love the show. Hey, guess what? So do we. No, but I was wondering why you don't do some episodes on do-it-yourself car maintenance and repair for beginners. It seems that beyond watching YouTube DIY videos, which I watch myself every once in a while, it's not easy to get good info about car basics. Well, thank you, Mike, because guess what? We have Joe. You know, didn't you? We've done a couple.
We've done a few, yeah.
So
We can
you're-
do more.
So you're saying like DIY, maybe changing the wiper blades? You know, we can do that.
Headlamp bulbs.
If you guys really
little
want
maintenance
us,
items.
instead of getting all this wisdom that we're giving you here from here in the studio, watching the sign fall, having Lauren come up, teaching about Detroit history, if you'd rather have us go outside, we could do that. Joe, do you want to do a couple?
Sure, absolutely. Be great.
Okay. Mike,
Let's work on it.
that was a great question. We will work on that, we promise, and we'll do that. Joe has got, by the way, you have a whole series of car care stuff.
I do.
We're going to do a show on maintenance myths. Mike, that's a great question. Thank you. Now, if you have a question that you'd like us to answer on the air, or give maybe a show topic idea, send it to me, J. Clor at carsincontext.com, and we'll be sure to put it on the air, and who knows, we'll actually maybe even do a show from it. Well, Joe, all of this is this left up to no time left. There's nothing left. The clock is empty.
Amazing. Amazing how time flies.
And
when
it
you're having
really
a
is.
good time.
Joe, thank you again for coming on to Cars in
My
Context.
pleasure, John. Great
and
to see you
that
again.
means, you know, now that they're calling in for DIY shows, it means you're going to have to come back and do
That's
another.
okay.
All right,
Happy
folks,
to.
thank you again for watching Cars in
Thanks,
Context.
folks.
Remember that knowledge is power. I've been your host, John Clor, and thanks for watching.